Good afternoon. Today is Monday, October 22nd, 2018. It is 1 p.m. and we're here for the regular trustee meeting. We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Are there any additions or changes?
Yes, Board, I have two. Under Administrator, before 2018 Veterans Day Proclamation, I would like to add the Mall Fairfield Commons Proclamation for their 25th anniversary. And under Road Department, we're going to remove purchase requests for truck repairs.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Anything else?
Hearing no other changes to the agenda, I would move to approve it as corrected.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Motion to accept general ledger report in the amount of $322,159.91 for the October 10th, 2018 payroll.
Second.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Motion to accept the payment listing reports in the amount of $138,575.18 for warrants through October 19th, 2018.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. And we have no minutes. At this time, any citizens desiring to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on. We have no old business, no new business, and we'll move on to the administrator.
Thank you, Board. First item I have is the addition to the agenda. I have a proclamation here for the 25th anniversary of the Mall Fairfield Commons. They will also be celebrating on the 25th grand opening of the Armed Forces Hub, presented by Jermaine Honda. This will allow active duty and retired military personnel a place to go, and recruiters will have the ability to be there as well to talk about the armed services. So I have a proclamation here.
Great.
Can you read it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Proclamation in honor of the Mall at Fairfield Commons 25th anniversary. Beavercreek Township is proud to celebrate the Mall at Fairfield Commons 25th anniversary, and whereas the Mall at Fairfield Commons opened in Beavercreek in 1993, and throughout the Mall at Fairfield Commons 25-year history, the mall and their employees have significantly contributed to the advancement of the Beavercreek community. And whereas today the business at the mall at Fairfield Commons hosts daily visitors from throughout the region, makes generous contributions to numerous local organizations, and serves as a regular meeting place for Beavercreek and surrounding residents. Whereas the mall at Fairfield Commons is opening the Armed Forces Hub, presented by Jermaine Honda, that will not only give back to active duty and retired military personnel, but will also give the opportunity for recruiters to reach out to those interested in joining one of the armed forces. And whereas the mall at Fairfield Commons is committed to continuing to serve as a leading corporate citizen, an exemplary employer, and a civic leader in the Beavercreek community and its surrounding region, I move that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Do I need to read all that?
Go ahead.
All right, I need to add some more. Now therefore be it hereby proclaimed that Beavercreek Township is proud to have celebrated with the mall at Fairfield Commons on its 25th anniversary. And be it further proclaimed that Beavercreek Township intends to remain a welcoming community for the conduct of business by such an exemplary company, and is looking forward to the next 25 years with confidence and pride in our civic partnership.
Still second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. Thank you.
The
Ms.
ceremony, there will be a ceremony at the new hub for a ribbon cutting as well as the reading of the proclamation. So if any of the board members would like to attend.
I was going to ask if Ms. Wallace would present that. If
I
you're-
can do that, I'll
you
be
can.
there.
Yeah, it'll be
As our
5 o'clock
resident.
on the 25th.
Got that on my calendar already.
5 o'clock on Thursday.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you, Board. Next item, since our next meeting is not till November 13th, that'll be 2 days after Veterans Day. We do have a Veterans Day proclamation recognizing all our active duty and veterans that are currently employed with Beavercreek Township, as well as any siblings, sons and daughters that also serve. There are some additions to what I put in the packet. I have a proclamation here.
Being said, it's truly my high-grade honor to offer the following proclamation for approval in honor of our veterans employed by Beavercreek Township. Whereas on November 12, 2018, Beavercreek Township will observe Veterans Day, pausing to honor every veteran who has ever worn one of our nation's service uniforms. And whereas we pay tribute to our veterans, we are mindful that no ceremony can repay the debt we owe each and every day for their service to our country. Whereas each time our freedoms have come under assault, our veterans have responded with resolve, courage, and willingness to sacrifice. Whereas under the most demanding of circumstances and in the most dangerous corners of the earth, America's veterans have served our country with distinction and valor. And all veterans deserve our gratitude and praise for their selfless acts and for the duty served to our great country. And whereas on this day, Beavercreek Township wishes to honor employees of the township who are veterans and or are currently active in a military reserve unit, namely Steve Du Bois, Air Force, Sean Fowler, Coast Guard, Eric Comas, Army National Guard, active reservist, Mike Michener, Army, Rob Negray, Navy, Ben Northrup, Air Force, John Ostrowski, Air National Guard, active reservist, Doug Ransdale, Army, Trustee Deborah Wallace, Army. And whereas on this day, Beavercreek Township also wishes to honor employees for the township whose sons and daughters have served or are serving in one of America's military branches. Jan Schultz, whose son Michael Ross Schultz Navarra is a Marine Corps veteran. Lieutenant Steve Weimer, son Marshall, is a Navy veteran. Lieutenant Ed Miller, 2 daughters on active duty, Eileen with the Army and Lindsay with the Navy. Firefighter Scott Gladney, son Chris, is a Navy veteran. Deputy Chief Scott Dorston, son Jacob Dorston, is on active duty in the Marine Corps. And Trustee Tom Kratz, whose son Eric Kratz is on active duty in the Air Force. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Beavercreek Township, Greene County, Ohio, extends its heartfelt gratitude and best wishes for success in their future endeavors to these employees and their sons and daughters who have served and are serving so well. Be it further resolved that we urge all citizens to pay due respect and gratitude to all veterans for their sacrifice and service to our country. We have hereunto set our hand and caused the seal of Beavercreek Township to be affixed this day, 22nd of October 2018.
Second.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Ms. Wallace.
Yes.
Mr. Kratz.
Yes. And if it's okay, I'd like to present that at the city's Veterans Day, the memorial service that they provide.
Yeah, the city will be having their ceremony on the 11th, which will be Sunday at 2 o'clock. I have asked the city if we could present that proclamation in honoring our veterans and sons and daughters.
Great.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 6. We do have a contract with the Sheriff's Office, and the Sheriff's Office is to present a budget per the contract before our budget hearings. That will be incorporated in our budget document presented in November. On page 6 is the police fund budget with revenue projected also for 2019 based on the auditor, and appropriation and expenses for 2019. We'll add, we had long discussions and several meetings with the Sheriff Office command staff about the operations of the substation. We are recommending adding a deputy, but in this case, we're also recommending adding a supervisor to the dep. So it'll be a total of 5. That supervisor will oversee all 4 of the deputies and will work a shift that covers our peak times, so that supervisor will be answering calls as well. and attend also staff meetings here and meetings with the township. Captain Prall's here to answer any questions, and I'll turn it over to Captain Prall for a little presentation.
Okay. Alex covered most of the points, but I think it would be a great service to the residents and the community of Beavercreek Township to have a sergeant overseeing the 4 deputies. Some of the key aspects that would be beneficial is you're going to have a sergeant, hopefully an experienced sergeant that will get more involved in your community, in the township community, be a point of contact for the schools, business owners. Currently, we have 1 sergeant that supervises 6 to 7 individuals spread throughout the county. So the supervisor has to manage the deputy down in Bowersville, Spring Valley, Clifton, and Beavercreek Township. So our view is having a sergeant that is focused 100% on the needs and the environment and the goings on, basically what's going on in the township, have a better pulse and be able to direct personnel to trouble areas, and also develop a better communication and with the schools, like I said, but also all the special details, all the sporting events. Our goal is once we set up the time frame that the hours would be, they would be flexible, meaning if you have a weekend Honda Classic tournament, for example, we'd want that sergeant to be available during that weekend. We'd want the sergeant to meet with the BSSA or the BSA, the people that organize these sporting events ahead of time to better develop plans, have more input on traffic patterns, do a little bit more planning for the number of people expected at these events, whether it be Hobson, Ankeny, any other areas. Basically, a supervisor assigned to Beavercreek Township would have the pulse and be able to more closely pay attention to the deputies that are assigned out here. Make sure you're getting the best product and the best services you can get from those 4. And then also be a liaison with the trustees, the administrator, the staff meetings. And it would just, I think it'd be beneficial to both the sheriff's office and the Beavercreek Township as a whole to have like a kind of a centerpiece where all the information would flow through one person. 100%, their attention would be 100% on this township and not divided throughout the townships and villages in the county. So I'll stand for any questions you all may have.
Mr. Roberts?
I have none. My only thing was the numbers, how do they look to fiscal?
I'm looking at them now with you, so I'm assuming Alex has looked at it
Yeah,
since he's your budget guy.
Yeah, we're well within, with the numbers provided by the auditor. Also was discussed at the Budget Commission meeting on what we were going to do with the levy money, with the increase. So we explained to the Budget Commission that our intent was to add staff in 2019, and that's our intent. We had long discussions with the command staff in regards to, answering those calls during peak time, and we see that with the monthly reports that the Sheriff's Office provides to the Board of Township Trustees. So having a flex schedule that meets the needs of not only township administration, but also the citizens of the community, I think is a great idea. Also, continuity of supervision as well. Right now, our deputies, as Captain Prall said, they report to different supervisors, depending on what sergeant's on duty in the main office. All the sheriff's deputies here at the substation will just report to one supervisor, then will also sit on into our staff meetings and attend township trustee meetings and answer any questions. As well as answer calls.
I like the idea of having the supervisor coming to the township meetings. I think that there's a lot of information that comes out, or when we have questions, it's nice to have somebody present as well as staff to be here to ask the questions directly. I've looked at the budget year goals that you guys put together. I would probably like to look at adding a 6th goal, which would be to work with the City of Beavercreek Police and coordinate events so that we don't have double protection, or that we have with the schools in the township and in the city to work together with the police department on that. But other than that, I think it looks good.
So, just from legal standpoint, as far as the language of the levy, we're well within that as far as adding a supervisory role. There's no issue there. Okay, so it falls within routine patrols and everything else. And so would it be fair to say then that at any given time, we would have, at most times, not all times, but we would potentially have 2 resources that could be dispatched?
Yes.
Okay. And so, how does that, what other costs are there that we may or may not be thinking of today? But as far as equipment, vehicles, things like that, is there anything else that we need to consider? So,
Well, we anticipated the additional staff, so.
Right.
We have 2 cruisers that are coming in. One was obviously a replacement for the one that was older than any other. Sheriff's Office and Tim Mr. Parks has a plan on keeping the mileage low on both vehicles, making sure that we don't, have just one, the patrol vehicle have the most of mileage. Both pieces of equipment, as stated in the 2018 budget, will be fully operational. So whether we move the cars back and forth, or if one of the deputies is off and a special deputy comes and rides out here to patrol, they'll be able to get into the cruiser and they'll be fully operational. So we anticipated all those changes. Some of the other changes in the budget account for that extra officer or deputy, which would be for the taser, the body camera, and all the fees associated with the body camera and taser.
okay. And the idea would be to start this in January?
January 1, yeah. Be
Okay.
effective once the budget is approved.
Okay. And when a special deputy supports an event like a soccer event, are they using a township vehicle or are they using a sheriff department vehicle typically?
They use the sheriff's office vehicle,
Okay.
and they pay for the use of the sheriff's office vehicle.
Okay. Okay. No, I support it. So,
If there's no other questions, I just need a simple motion to approve the 2019 police budget as presented.
Also move that.
I'll second.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
yes,
Thank you. Next
thank you for
item-
taking the time to come.
Thank you, Kevin.
No problem, thank you.
Next item is the biweekly report for the sheriff's office. Are there any questions for Captain Bralwise here?
I have no questions, just a comment. And I think it's a systemic issue with regards to Treybine Road. There were some questions that were posed with regards to the sheriff had a speed trailer out on Treybine, and it was, I think, right at North Turfland Boulevard. And it was within 15 feet of a 35-mile suggestion sign, is what I call them. So there were questions as to why we would put a trailer right next to that's showing 55 miles an hour right next to a 35-mile-an-hour sign.
Right.
And I did my best to help explain to folks that those yellow diamond signs are suggestions, and that, to my understanding, at least from the county engineer, they are not enforceable because the speed limit is whatever it is, 50 or 55. So,
And-
it's
Yeah, I do. It would give a wrong perception to the public. And,
Yep, so
I
it's
did
just-
direct the sign to go there because there was complaints from the residents in that community of trying to turn in and out the speeders.
There's
so we
constant
put that out
complaints,
there.
yep, as far as people trying to cross the street there, physically walk across it, or turning left is very challenging sometimes, and it's gonna continue as the new piece of White Barn comes on with the new Gordon White. So it was just a point of reference that I think personally the sign was good to have there because it catches everybody's attention. But there's still that perception out there that, number one, the township and the sheriff control the speed limit there, and that, number two, that the speed limit is supposed to drop to 35 and it's not. So just
Gotcha.
FYI. So, other than that, any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 27 of your packet. It's the, by township policy, I'm to present to the Board of Township Trustees a 2019 holiday schedule. I do have a resolution on page 27. By state statute, we are required to provide 10 holidays to the township and to the employees. In years past, we've moved, and we're allowed to, under the statute, to move some holidays. This year, we're only recommending moving, once again, like we do every year, is move Columbus Day for the day after Thanksgiving. Do you have a resolution here?
I would move to approve the resolution to establish a 2019 township holiday schedule, whereas the Board of Trustees of Beavercreek Township, Greene County, State of Ohio, move for approval of the following, whereas to establish the 2019 township holiday schedule per the Beavercreek Township, Greene County, Ohio, Policy Manual, Section 4, Number 3, to the following: January 1st, 2019, New Year's Day; January 21st, 2019, Martin Luther King Day, Junior Day; February 18th, 2019, President's Day; May 27th, 2019, Memorial Day; July 4th, 2019, Independence Day; September 2nd, 2019, Labor Day; November 11th, 2019, Veterans Day; November 28th and 29th, 2019, Thanksgiving; December 25th, 2019, Christmas. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Beavercreek Township, Greene County, Ohio favorably pass the above resolution. Further be it resolved that all formal actions of the Board of Trustees concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution are being adopted at a duly called and authorized open meeting of the Board of Trustees on the date set forth above, such meeting being duly called pursuant to and compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Now that we passed the resolution, we set the meeting schedule for 2019. I am recommending, and staff's recommending, we continue the same schedule as we did this year. Because of the approved holidays, there will be two meetings that are moved to Tuesdays, May 28th, 2019, and November 12th, 2019. I do have a motion on page 30, adopting the meeting schedule for calendar year 2019. Also to note that all public hearings, like we have tonight in regards to zoning amendment to the resolution, will be held in the evening.
With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve Beavercreek Township regular meeting schedule for calendar year 2019 as presented.
Second.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 31 of your packet is the Human Resource Department biweekly report. Are there any questions?
The only question I had was relative to the medical mutual. And just to follow up on that note, did we receive the rebate or refund?
We have it, yes.
And then how much was it?
Just over 29,000.
Yeah, it was
And we're
just
auditing
a-
that to make sure that the employees that attended matches what they have listed.
Okay, very good. So we fulfilled our obligations, and we believe, or they believe they fulfilled theirs. We're auditing to make
Right.
sure.
And you have in your packet information on how to participate in this year's wellness incentive.
Great. Very good. Any other HR-related questions? Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 33 of your packet is the Zoning Department biweekly report. Are there any questions?
Only question I had for Mr. Amrine was relative to Arlington and the dead trees that we were looking at. I don't really know, I guess it's a crossover between zoning, but it's a zoning enforcement and a roads issue, I guess. But as far as the removal of those dead trees, did we?
Yes, the enforcement efforts have yielded some results. Some of the parcels have been cleaned up. The two trees in question are slated to be removed as soon as the contracted tree removal person is available. He is working on another property right now,
Okay.
doing
Is that
some
the
excavating.
township that contracted, or the developer?
No, it's the developer took the responsibility for doing it
Okay.
in response to our letters.
Okay. I know we had a high wind event here, it sounds like, over the weekend, and
Right.
I was in DC, and there was a very high wind event there, and so.
Right,
it,
it's it's definitely front and center, along with the cleaning of the detention pond on the other parcel. And some minor trim work that still remains to be done in Arlington and the colony. But in fact, the developer was just in touch with us today to assure us that the contractor would be there within the next week.
Good. Any other questions?
I had a question on the school bus on that property on Beaver Valley Road. I saw earlier this weekend it was in the middle of the yard, and then yesterday it was gone. Have we been enforcing that or pushing on that?
I hadn't noticed that it was gone. Since the property is zoned agriculture, if we cannot determine that a vehicle is either inoperable or unregistered, and we often can't do that without going onto the property, then enforcement remains rather difficult. We have sent a letter to the owner of the property indicating that while he is not currently in violation of any zoning resolution provisions, that he's close, and that these are the things, here are the things you need to look out for in order not to be found in violation and not to trigger the following kinds of enforcement actions. So we think we understand what the motivation is for the location and movement of those vehicles, but as long as they're registered and operable, they're not junk by our definition. So we can't force their removal.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing. Looks like we've slowed down.
By the way, the first sales of parcels in the Nathaniels Grove subdivision, and I don't know whether this was because of discounts being offered or whatever, but the sales of parcels that will back up to that property have been brisk. And of the 11 or 12 parcels that have sold, we've issued zoning permits for the construction of 7 or 8 homes, and all of those parcels are ones that back up against that property. So if we're correct in our speculation about what his motivation is for what he's doing on the property, it ain't working. So, for what it's worth.
The Partridge family moving in, so, okay.
Yeah.
I think most of the builders are dealing with the same issues that we're seeing, is that there's a shortage of labor out there. So obviously River Reserve they're just waiting for the next 2 sections to open up. So we think we're going to see a little more activity on the other side of town now in regards to Nathaniels Grove.
Yes, sales remain brisk, and we should have about 60 parcels come online within the next couple of weeks. We have recordations scheduled at White Barn Trail, first section, and
Yeah, it appears they're getting ready, they're getting close to asphalt.
Section 3 of River Reserve, so forth. So the number on the report of shovel-ready sites will jump again here shortly.
See what happens with interest rates. Thank you. IT?
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 38, is the biweekly report for IT. A few updates on some projects. Phase 1 of the transition from the thin clients to the fat clients is almost complete. The only room left is this one here, the screen. That's the only computer left to be installed, and phase 1 will be complete. I did sit down with Back to Business IT to discuss our 2019 budget. We do have, as I've indicated over the last year, and including at the budget meetings, is that we do have some infrastructure that'll be coming up for replacement next year, as well as phase 2 of the project that was approved earlier by the board. Another project that we were hoping to get done was the phone project to move over to Spectrum. We've had some issues with our current provider releasing the phone lines to Spectrum. Everything's been taken care of. I took care of it this past week. We should be completely transitioned over Spectrum by a week from today. So that project will be complete.
With regards to back to business, what are the options that are, and what are your recommendations going to be with regards to the labor content? Renewing under the same scenario that we are with support, or switching to a per incident? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, we're not there yet in regards to a ticketed contract yet, where we pay per contract. I would say we'd have to evaluate once phase 2 is done to see if we really see these numbers drop off. Obviously, if you look at the stats, every time we make a transition to finishing a project, we get a lot of tickets in just because just minor issues that need to be fixed. So I'm hoping to see once phase 2 is done, we see that drop off. We are going to be down significantly. We started out with 43 or 44 servers. By the end of phase 1, after we install the FAT client in this meeting room, we're going to be down to 8 servers. It was going to be 7, but we added a server for VIP for the accounting software.
So what are our renewal options then with them as far as a support contract? Is it renew at the same price, renew at a new price, renew at a lower price?
When we entered into the agreement, those prices are locked. They would have to come back to us to say that they're going to increase it.
That's why I'm asking.
That was their first.
By when would they have to do that for next year?
They would have to already notify us.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're technically locked in for
Yeah.
next year at the same rates.
We were locked in at the first increase they did in several years. So they're not anticipating another client-wide wide increase. If we switch to a ticketed service, we'd have to go back and look at that and see.
Okay.
what
Is
those
there
numbers
any trigger we need to pull with regards to renewing that, or is it an automatic
It's
rollover?
automatic.
Okay. Any other IT-related questions? Website looked good. It appears to be working well.
Yes,
So-
yes, and I've had
I've
a
been
couple
directing
neighbors
people to it,
comment.
so.
They really like the notify me.
Yeah.
So, and my neighbors say, oh, I watched the township meeting the other day, because as soon as we upload it, it notifies anyone who signed up, and it takes it right to them,
Yep.
to the link. So,
Good.
yeah.
I sent a few people like the calendar link, like for Halloween, when was trick or treat and things like that, and they like it.
Yeah.
Good.
The only thing I'd like to do is just get some fall pictures and update, just to kind of change the website feel, like based on season. So,
Very good. Roads.
thank you, Board. First item is the maintenance agreement with the Beavercreek Historical Society. Budget justification and agreements in your packet, and motions on page 41.
I had a question on the building. Do we have automatic thermostats? I mean, can they be, what kind of thermostats do we have?
It's just a digital
So they have
thermostat.
to,
Yeah, and basically we work with both tenants that use the building. And in the summertime, they kick it up to about 80. When they're in the building, they'll kick it down to like 72. And in the winter, they'll drop it to like 60, unless they're in the building, and then they'll kick it up to like 68, 70.
so is there a lock on there? I mean, so
No.
somebody can't, another person can't come in and fluctuate it? That's
No.
something we may wanna put on there,
That's something we
for
could.
you to have control too, or?
Well,
I mean, I know
actually,
you can physically go in the building.
yeah, and actually we do check the building a couple times a week. Usually because the alarms went off because they put the wrong number in, so. But we're in there quite a bit, and every time we've spot checked it, they're very good, because they know if the heating bills and the utilities go up,
They're gonna-
their rent goes up, so.
okay.
It's not a programmable thermostat. I guess they're not there on a.
They're not there on a
frequent
regular
enough
basis, that's
where
the
you
problem.
can say, here's your different times.
And it's not the type of thermostat to where you could remote net
That's what I
opt in
was-
somewhere.
We could if we wanted to go to the expense of that.
If you knew they were gonna, be there on a certain times, you could have it warm up and cool down, but, it's
Yeah,
difficult.
it's
And
hard to
even-
tell with this historical society because they have their, like, monthly meetings. However, they have archivists come in during the week. Sometimes they're there on Thursdays.
Yeah.
But it might be like 2 or 3 weeks. And basically, right now, the historical society is kind of in flux.
Yeah.
They're not sure what direction they're gonna go,
Right.
so.
I guess I would personally recommend the honor system on thermostat as long as you can before putting a lock on it, because as soon as you put a lock on it, the population of space heaters goes up.
Yes,
Good point.
It's proven fact.
yes.
I've seen it happen, and then you've lost all efficiencies, so.
And I think part of it is with that honor system, when you put it down to, hey, if we start paying more for utilities,
Right.
then your rent's going up. Both of them are volunteer organizations.
Yep.
They get it, so.
Good.
The Historical Society is currently looking for a president, so I've offered the president to kind of look, to help out the community.
I've been
and
helping
find-
them
yeah.
look.
So there is some interest, but if you know of anybody that would be interested, they are looking for, and Jill said she would stay there and until we find a new president to the Historical Society.
There you have it.
If anybody in the community is listening, we're
Yeah.
looking for a president for the Beavercreek Historical Society.
There are no other questions. There's a motion on page 41.
Make a motion to renew the maintenance agreement as presented and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Thank you, board. Next item is
So you
purchase.
have
I did, actually. Is that listed on the website that you're looking for?
No, we're gonna put it, I asked her, I'd put it on there, and it will go out once we get more and more people to notify me. Yeah, so, I've, gone to some different meetings and kinda at the end throw that out there, so.
Rotary and
Yeah.
Women's League, maybe.
Yep.
Okay. Purchase request.
Yes, next item is purchase request for tires and rims. The budget justification is on page 41 with a motion.
Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve purchase request 9688 to Carol Wirtz Tire Company in an amount of $3,879 and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Thank you, board. Next item is on page 49 is the road department's bi-weekly report. Are there any questions?
I had no questions.
Neither did I.
The only question, and I don't know if it's probably a zoning / road, but it's tied to Woodridge 3 and Lot 14. Is that dispute settled with regards to landscape screening on the berm that was recently created, or that's still pending?
Conversations are ongoing.
Okay.
I think the screening that was installed was not quite adequate. And the
Sure.
trustee resolution said that the zoning administrator needed to be satisfied that it was
Okay.
adequate, so.
So,
Trying to get
but from a road standpoint, have we signed off on that?
We have not. We're
Okay.
close, and
And the reason I'm asking is when you sign off, does that negate Mr. Amrine's oversight?
Yes.
it does. And
Okay.
that's why I'm working with him to try to get it resolved before we get final pavement down.
Okay.
Because actually the bond for street, and we'll call it storm,
Yeah.
doesn't have anything to do with landscaping, so that's probably kind of a slippery slope to,
Erosion control.
they've done all the erosion control. Screening's a little different, so.
I understand.
We
Okay. I'm just-
have-
Just so you didn't get caught in the middle is where I was hoping.
Yeah, well,
So-
as soon as the trees went in, I made the phone call, so.
Okay.
Just to kind of give you an update, River Reserve Section 3 should be under pavement by the end of the week. White Barn Trails should be under pavement by the end of the week. Right now, it's a big push to get everything before winter. There's a big push to
Sure.
get bonds and everything signed off on for I think right now we have 1.7 miles of road that are hanging that should be done by the end of this year, so. It's a very busy time, shall I say.
All depending on weather.
It's all depending on weather, and it's supposed to be nice all week.
Asphalt shuts down Thanksgiving, or are they gonna stay open later this year?
They'll stay open as long as they can.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, they've stayed open till December.
Yeah,
Yeah,
first week or
late
two.
November, early December.
And it's all weather dependent. Right now, with the paving of Upper Bell, that's buying us some time, so.
Yeah, good. Any other questions on the road department bi-weekly?
Thank you,
We're
Board.
good, thank you.
Next item is on.
Oh, I had one question, I apologize. Cemetery update as far as where we stand with the inventory and the log and as far as what we have available and what's not available with regard to plots.
We went through the inventory. We have probably 8 or 9 that I just haven't had time to sit with Alex and go through in one section, whether we make them available or take them off. Once that process is done, then we'll go back to the maps and have those redone to give us more accurate. As far as inventory, we're very close. We've added a lot of information into the system now that wasn't there before. One of the biggest changes we've made, so that we can kind of try to get away from the confusion, both myself and the road foreman who does most of the stuff in the cemetery, actually have laptops now where we can actually pull up the cemetery software while we're there, which should make selling of spots a lot easier than
Sort
just
of the
going
back
off
and
a
forth.
piece of paper.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. It's just kind of a slow process at this point.
Okay,
Because when we're done, we want it to be right and not have to go back and do it again.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Can we use an intern to help with that and the auditing or adding in the information?
Actually, Cheryl and Linda, my clerk, have been working well, probably 10 hours a week or so.
Okay.
And most of that kind of stuff is done. It's more of a measurement in one section where things just aren't quite right. We just have to have time to
Okay,
sit back and look at it and make some decisions as a staff.
thank you, Mr. Parks.
okay. It seems, and I don't know the system, if it's a state system that we have to be compliant with, or if it's just state reporting that we have to provide. But it seems that there should be very simple software. It seems like there should be, that's color coded that says it's either red or blue, it's, green or red, whatever.
And that's exactly what we have.
Okay, but are we manually creating that, or is there a software package that allows us to?
There was a software package that came with it,
Okay.
but it was transferring deeds, lot records, lot cards, which we had used for years, into that system.
Okay,
We thought they had been audited.
sure.
We ran into some, I'll call it issues or mistakes.
Yeah, that
So
happens.
they went back through and from, we'll say grave 1, lot 1, all the way through, and double checked all 3 sources we have and got it as close as we can. And going through there, we found, missing information where it'll say, this owner is giving the graves to this son, and this son. And we've actually added notes
Okay.
in for that. So on down the road, we don't have to look at them and say, I need something that says you're entitled to be buried here, and their parents are gone and they don't have anything.
Okay.
Good.
And then the only other thing cemetery related is, I'd like to see, and maybe we can talk about this when it comes to goals and things like that for 19, but is the adjoining property. I think at some point in time, we need to begin to put together a plan for what we are going to do with that. And I know there's been things talked and discussed, and Other priorities have come in front of it, but I think we owe it, we spent taxpayer dollars to buy it. And at some point in the not so distant future, we need to have a plan for what are we gonna do with it, other than mow, because we do a great job of mowing. It looks great. It's well maintained. It's an improvement to what it was, there's no question. But we bought it for a purpose, and to talk those next steps sometime next year.
Absolutely.
Good point.
The building is used on a regular basis.
I understand. We didn't buy it as a training
Yeah, I
facility,
know,
though.
I know.
So,
It's it is, not only is the fire department using it, but now the Beavercreek Police is using it. The regional SWAT team's been in there several times. And then during the active shooter training that the schools did with the fire department and all the other entities that were involved, they ran additional scenarios in that
Sure.
building. So yeah, I agree. We'll put something together and look at what we can do in 19.
and I understand that. I mean, that is a value to the residents that
Yeah.
paid for it, but we also, we had a concept and idea of why we bought it,
Yep.
so.
Well, and some of the stuff we've already done to the property, like the little, I'll call it two-car garage that's off. We've actually went through and redone that to become, and we actually use it now for cemetery storage, for dry dirt, keep our boards in it. Actually brought the electric over to it so that when we're getting ready to do electric for, we'll call it the news section, it's already there. Already ran stuff to the well. So some of those steps have been put in place. It's now a matter of trying to lay it out.
With regards to the training activities that go on in there, so the asbestos issues that may or may not be there, or that we may or may not be aware of, are they encapsulated?
Oh.
Or is it purely
We
time?
mitigated all that.
We
It's all
mitigated all that.
mitigated, 100%.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
we did.
But did we encapsulate, or did we
It was removed.
remove it? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that was all done.
For some
with
reason,
the-
I thought we encapsulated some. I don't-
No,
maybe
we
thinking of a different
removed
product.
everything that was,
Okay. The encapsulation's only as good as long as you don't poke it,
Yeah,
yes.
so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Thanks.
Fire.
Board, the only item for fire today is the biweekly report. Are there any questions for the chief or myself?
I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah. You had that heavy crown on the last week and a half.
Did an exceptional job filling in for the administrator, I will say that. So, you'll be missed. Anything on the biweekly questions?
I just love to see all the community outreach stuff. I love to see you guys out in the public. So, keep it up.
How many people, did you have a count on the tri-truck and
Oh, yeah, try.
the fire department's open house?
Mr. Grogan is working with the city to try and get that count. I do not have it currently, so I think they're gonna try and get together this week to figure out how many. And then they actually came up with some ideas on possibilities for getting a better count next year. So next year they're gonna look at actually having a couple main entrance points where they can get counts as people are coming in and out. It's a little difficult because we have such a huge perimeter, but they figure there's a couple ideas for kind of incentivizing people to come in through a common area and then maybe use that as a spot where some of the kids get some of their things, so they can get a better,
That's a good
more
idea.
accurate count. But yeah, he did not have one last time I talked to him late last week.
Yeah. Pick up a sticker, and if you hit every truck or hit every point, every station in the department, so there's a way to do it.
Yeah, like a
Parking
little passport or
Parking
something.
was in short supply. It
Yes.
was, you had absolutely beautiful weather, so it was well done from what I saw.
Yeah, the crews do an excellent job, and they coordinate with the city, obviously, to make sure that we have participation at both ends, and then obviously we coordinate the overall activity as well. It's worked out very well for us over the past several years.
Yeah, good. And auxiliary had a nice setup as well. So
Yes, I think they had both their vans out and operational, so that was kind of nice to see.
very good.
Yeah, I would say maybe let's, try and get the chili out in the bay. I don't know how many people actually make it in.
I think the logistics of keeping it inside are why it's in there. They did, I think the first year or two, they tried to have it in the bay, and it did not work well, just because they need all the stuff to keep it clean and heated, and
Maybe
we're
some
not-
signage, because I know I directed a lot.
better
of people-
signage we could
a lot of
definitely
people
do.
that way. Chili was fabulous this year too,
Yeah.
all of them.
The downside is if you have too many people go through, it runs out faster. So.
Yeah, the one year I missed some of the chili, but
Yeah, if you don't get there early, you're not going to get a sample of everything. So,
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
thank you very much.
thank you, board, that's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Frick,
Nothing.
Ms. Aaron's.
No, just an update. I was hoping to have salary study information to you this meeting, but we're not quite there yet. We're still waiting for some respondents. So as soon as, I'm hoping by next trustee meeting, we'll provide information about that.
Okay.
I have a question for Ms. Aaron's. After having met with your staff a couple months ago, and we talked about money in different line item budgets, I appreciate the fact that you put these red points on here, on these appropriations. Has this been taken care of then? Or are we addressing, I mean,
I'd have
Here.
to see it. Jan does a good job of trying to give you as much information to answer the
Yes.
questions, so without me looking at it to see. So there wasn't enough money in that BC, so she moved money in order to, she closed the old one, added money in order to open it, and that's why you have a new number.
so then when this new software comes in place, we won't be having those kind of issues, is that correct?
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
You could still not have enough money, but there would be, all the trigger points would
Would be-
essentially
It would
occur before it ever
automatically.
got
Right.
to that
So
level.
would
I just
be
want to keep
before it
up
got.
on that, and I appreciate you defining that, because we need to be
Yep.
aware of, you know, when there's nothing, lacking money in certain fund codes. I'm all signed off.
It's signed.
Okay. And there's still, Alex, are you guys, do you still do budget, at your meetings,
Yeah, so we do quarterly
department head?
meetings. We did meet, before I went on vacation, so that seems like, even though I just got back. We had our quarterly budget review and looking for the rest of this year. We also discussed about some of the line items, switching them from the formula to a trend, so that we ensure that there's enough money in the line item from the formula that's approved by the board to changing it to a trend. Essentially, this will be the last year of this type of budget and budget process. Next year, going into 20, hopefully, knock on wood, will be under the new system, and there'll be a different format, which, depending on once it's complete and we're up and running, I may have to come to the board with a recommendation on changing some things with the policy. There will be some policy changes because we'll be adding the software, and that all purchases will have to be done through the software. So there will be some changes, but how we do budgeting is going to change drastically going from 19 into 20.
Thank you.
And I would assume is even, once we get to the new system and those automatic triggers and everything are in place, you're still gonna be getting notices that the trigger's fired.
Sure.
Just so we have that audit trail to double check to make sure that something happens when it should, or doesn't happen, or something happens that it shouldn't, so.
Correct. Yeah, so if the advantage of the software is to know what's also in the pipeline. So if someone did put a purchase request in,
Yeah.
and there's not enough money, even though some things have not been approved yet, it won't allow the employee to process it. Now, if, for example, it goes to a certain level within the organization, let's say the department head denies the purchase request, it will then send an email back to that individual, put the first denial saying there is now enough money for yours. There's also will be a process separate, and that's what staff is going to be working with VIP or SSI with the VIP software on processes. And so if we had to move money, there'll be a separate authorization process for that as well, and of course be tracked and approval process for that. We're looking forward to it, but it's going to be a lot of work to get it up and running.
Okay. Where are we at on dates for budget hearings?
Actually, probably next meeting, which will be the 13th of November, we'll be asking to schedule 1 day of budget. Usually, we used to do 3, we got it down to 1. We did 2 last year, just in case. I think I'll just ask for 1 day.
In November?
In
or
December.
In December,
Yeah.
okay. And so
Budgets are due to me November 16th. As tradition, I'll send it out before the Thanksgiving holiday weekend.
Okay.
And then give you, the elected officials time to review that for a couple weeks, and then we'll have the sit-down.
And Ms. Aarons, you'll have, sounds like you're gonna have your information compiled before the 16th, so, good. Okay. MVRPC, any update?
No meeting.
TAC, any update?
The October meeting was canceled.
Okay. Greene County Regional Planning is tomorrow night?
While we're sitting here, I got an email, it's canceled.
Okay,
They canceled this
then I'll
month.
definitely cover you. Health Department, no update. Superintendent, City Manager,
I'll be meeting with the city manager next Monday.
and Restoration Board, right, Pat?
We haven't had a meeting. I was anticipating a fall meeting, but it'll probably be spring now.
Greene County Township Association, any updates?
No updates.
And no update on Investment Oversight Committee.
And then maybe we could reach out to our representative for the youth council.
Sure.
Ms. Graff.
Just to get
We've not had an update on that.
maybe a quarterly update or
Yeah.
anything new there.
Yep.
And anything, Mr. Roberts, you'd like to add?
My only comment is I attended one of the local forums, and Super Street subject came up. And I, just wanted to let, our administrator know I directed some residents back to, Alex on our website for, education on that. And, it was the Fairborn Forum, and I ended up, I think, answering more questions than the people running for office on Super Street. So, if there's any influx there, that definitely was a topic.
Interesting. Ms. Wallace, any comments?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. The only comments in relative to the Super Street, so two business owners that have contacted me with regards to the ODOT reaching out to them to purchase right away. It appears on surface level, because they actually shared, I saw copies of the letters from ODOT and the correspondence, and it's a very thorough process. Both business owners in this case were pleased with how it was handled. It was very transparent. There was nothing. They were surprised that certain right-of-way was going to be in the name of Beavercreek Township versus in the name of ODOT or some other entity. But once a little bit of explaining, it was easy enough to get past. But it appeared that ODOT was attempting to, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. It wasn't Keith, but it was another individual of that district. But they were being accommodating to and sensitive to businesses that were already in place versus land that may be agricultural use now, and maybe a little more flexible with regards to where they could to shift to. So it was just a compliment, if you can pass that on.
Sure.
And then it looks like Judge O'Dime circulated just a note, a letter to the trustees with regards to an event on November 8th for National Adoption Awareness Month, and I'd actually like to attend that on behalf of the township if I can. I'm a product of Montgomery County Children's Services, so I'd like to go that with my dad.
Sure.
So that'd be great. If there's nothing else, take a motion to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G1, to consider the compensation of a public employee.
So moved?
So seconded.
So I'm gonna get the time, 1:59. Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes. It's 2:55 p.m. We have a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Roberts?
Yeah.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes. And Ms. Wallace, you have something for us?
Yes, I make a motion to approve a wellness incentive of $50 to each participating health insurance subscriber who completes a health check, the online assessment, and the cost comparative tool within 14 days of the health check for Medical Mutual's 2018-2019 Wellness Initiative. If the township reaches level 1 of Medical Mutual's 2018-2019 Wellness Initiative, I make a motion to approve an additional incentive of $50 for each participating subscriber. If the township reaches level 2 of Medical Mutual's 2018-2019 Wellness Initiative, I make a motion to approve an incentive of $100 for each participating subscriber. Level 1 and level 2 incentives will not be combined, and there aren't, these monies are from the Medical Mutual's incentive program, not from township administrative monies.
Second.
No, I think Ms. Wallace hit it, that this is essentially using wellness incentive dollars that we received from the wellness program, that wellness checks we did in 2017 that rolled into incentives the township received in just recently in 2018. We're going to essentially reinvest those into a new program for 2018-19.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Krepp?
Yes. Anything else to come before the board? It is 2:57 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Krepp?
Yes, and we are back at 6:30 p.m. this evening.
Thank you.